I'm Drew. Welcome back to my sewing room where I create and explore all things vintage fashion, vintage lifestyle, vintage sewing, all things vintage, but currently obsessing with the 1940s and the 1950s, but that could change at any moment. If you've been watching any of my recent videos, you know that I am making all of my outfits for my brother's wedding weekend. A couple of videos ago, I did my dress for the bridal shower. A couple of videos from now, you will see my dress for the wedding brunch that my parents are hosting. But this video is all about making the dress for the rehearsal dinner that my husband and I are hosting. So I'm going to be making a 1950s, 1960s evening gown. I really love the pattern that I chose for this dress. I love the fabrics I chose. I think I do. I'm not that sure. I posted them over on Instagram and asked people were they tacky. Most said no, but a few did say yes, but that they were tacky as well, so they couldn't really judge. I think this is going to be a really fun video and a fun make. It's a very fun fabric. Let me know what you think of my fabric choices in the comment box below. I've really been trying to challenge myself and push my own boundaries, not just in regards to my sewing, but also in regards to my own personal style. This dress is not something that I would or could have made a year ago. I certainly would not have been comfortable enough with myself to take such a bold risk with the print and with the color of this dress and the style of this dress that commands so much attention. So I'm just really excited for it and excited to wear it. I'm excited to show you all this video. I hope you all can see the growth in me as a seamstress, as a YouTuber, as I try to develop my own personal style. I hope you guys can really see the growth in that and know that you have something to do with it. I really do appreciate all your support and you guys pushing me and answering my questions and just all of it. I'm really thankful for it. And if you want to continue to do so, then give this video a like or a share or subscribe if you forgot to do so. But the main thing I ask for is say something in the comment box below. I tell you guys all the time, if you don't, then I am really just sitting here in my sewing room talking to myself for no reason. So say something down there. I respond to every single comment or question. And if you are new here, then welcome to the family. Introduce yourself in the comments below so we can give you a proper welcome. So with all of that said, I want to get you right into the making of my rehearsal dinner dress. I'm not quite sure if it's the 1950s or 1960s, but if you know the answer to that, then you can leave that in the comment box below. And so with all of that said, let's just get into it. The making of my 1950s evening gown rehearsal dinner dress. So the pattern I'm using is Butterick 2488. It doesn't have a copyright date, but I think it's early 1960s or really late 1950s, judging by the hair. I'm doing this view, which is view E with the overskirt. I'm so in love with this dress. I think it is going to be such a cute take on vintage evening wear to do it in this leopard for the overskirt and then this complementary fabric for the dress. So I think this is going to be really cute, really fun for the rehearsal dinner, which is coming up very soon. So normally I start with the bodice, but this one has been completely taken apart by the previous owner. So I'm just moving right into the skirt construction. So here I am getting it cut out of the main fabric for the dress. And then I will move to the overskirt. The overskirt looks really simple. It has a dart in one place, which is here. And then you'll fold over the edges and hem those to like self-finish. So it doesn't look too complicated or like it's going to take much work. So we're just going to jump right in. So one side of the overskirt has a dart, and then down at the other end, it has an opening, which will be for the zipper. So you have to face it and all of these things. So as you'll see later, that ended up being a thing, but you'll see what comes later with that. This was supposed to be a really simple overskirt, but it ended up, yeah, we'll get to that. So I dealt with the dart down at the one end, and then I cut a 9 by 4 inch piece of fabric to use for the facing down at the other end. So the first thing I had to do was finish 3 edges of this piece, and then I transferred the markings and pinned it to the overskirt right sides together because I'm going to have to stitch along these lines, and then at the bottom I will finish the dart. So that's what I did. So this is that facing that's on the left panel of the overskirt all completed. I will now seam the left and right panels together at center back. Once that is completed, I will then finish the sides and bottom edges of the overskirt with a blind hem. So with a lot of progress made on the overskirt, it's time to start work on the actual skirt of the dress. So I start with the skirt back piece, which will be 2 pieces seamed together at the center back. So I start with transferring all of the markings for my darts. So now I have prepped both the skirt front and the skirt back with the darts and all of the markings transferred. So now I will take both of these to the sewing machine at the same time. So this is the front piece. It was cut on the fold. It has to be gathered between these markings on both sides opposite of center front. Once I do that, I will then attach the front to the back at the side seams. So now it's time to begin work on the bodice. The previous owner of this pattern cut it all up to do their alterations. I'm guessing so they could add length and width, and so I had to tape it all back together, and that's why you see the tape here on the pattern. I proceeded with getting it cut out of my fashion fabric. Because I did not read through the instructions as I should, I didn't realize that all of these pieces had to be cut out twice, so that way they could be flatlined. So I had to go back in and do that later. But it was definitely a necessary step. It added structure to the dress, as this cotton that I'm using here is a very lightweight one. The overskirt cotton was really thick, and I like the feel of it, but this was really thin and flimsy, and so I'm definitely glad that I did flatline those pieces. I did indeed run out of fabric cutting out the bodice pieces, and so I ended up using some leopard in places, and then I found a blush pink in my stash, and there is blush in the dress, and I was really happy I did and that it worked out that way, because what I ended up using was really heavy, and I'm glad. It definitely added the structure to this dress that it needed. And so I proceeded here with getting the princess seams pinned together so that way I could take it to the sewing machine. I went through a little confusion for a while, but I figured it out. What ended up happening is because there was a little bit of leopard left that I had lined the piece with, I thought, why not make it the outside fabric? So I ended up using the leopard on the side front pieces, and so that was an interesting design choice that I'm still not sure how I feel about, but I don't know, something different. So the bodice went together pretty quickly and without much trouble, other than those princess seams, which I ended up having to unpick and do again because there was a few bubbles, but I got them all out, and then I had to work on attaching the facing. So that's what you see here. And it was fairly simple, but it was a little tricky, like with this square back. I had to stop and start and pick up the stitches in a way for the facing to be able to fold into itself and smooth that square neck. So that part was a little tricky, but other than that, it went fairly smooth. You see me here wrestling with the facing a bit, but other than that and the princess scenes, of course, I didn't run into too much trouble with this make, at least at this point I hadn't. It was a pretty quick make. I worked on it a few hours each day for 3 or 4 days total, and it was really painless. It was a lot of fun in the sewing room. The kids came and hung out a bit, and then we have a new member of the family. This is Mercy, and she loves it in the sewing room, but I'm a little afraid for her to be in here, and so I'm vacuuming 15 times a day. But overall, it's been really fun. And so now we have a mostly completed bodice. I just have to do the shoulder straps and face those. And so you kind of stitch them right sides together, and then that overlapped part, you end up stitching that down to hide the other stitches. I've done this a few times before, and so whenever I run into a technique that I've done before, I'm always super happy. So that's how this went, and the bodice is complete. And here is that completed bodice on the dress form. I really like it. I'm happy. I think that I chose to add those leopard pieces to the side seams. I think it's cute. Next, I was instructed to gather the waist of the skirt portion of the dress down and attach it to a waist stay. And so that's what you see me doing here. I'm just gathering it down and getting it pinned, and then I will take it to the sewing machine and stitch it in place. So once I completed that step, it was time to attach the skirt to the bodice, or so I thought. You were not supposed to attach the skirt to the bodice. You were supposed to attach the overskirt to the skirt. But of course, I don't read directions like I should, and so I didn't do that. I attached the skirt to the bodice, and I was feeling myself. I thought it looked pretty darn good. I came so very close to taking the dress apart and doing it the way I was supposed to, but something stopped me. I just didn't have it in my heart to undo all of that hard work. I can't believe I skipped that part. That was the whole reason for the facing on the side of the overskirt and that whole thing. That's where the zipper was supposed to go. But in this case, since I didn't follow directions, I just went ahead and I gathered down the overskirt onto a strip of like bias binding that I made, and I figured I would just stitch it all to that and be able to tie it to my waist. So it's detachable, so I mean that's not all bad.
What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers. Don't get